Welcome to A Mason's Work, the podcast where we review Masonic symbols and illustrate how they can be used to solve problems in everyday life. With your host, Brian Mattox, a proud member of the Craftsman Online Media Network.
So, to wrap up the secretary conversation this week, I want to share with you a personal experience I had. It wasn't a Masonic experience. It was something that happened in my life, but it speaks to this understanding the secretary function. I was a high school student, and I went to my English professor, and we were, very, very collegial or chummy or whatever. And so we were talking, and at some point I made it known that my life ambition was to change the world. And he kind of stopped me in my tracks and said, dude, you've got to get that out of your head. You're not going to change the world. It's hard enough just to be happy. Your objective should be just to be happy. And I recorded that memory, largely based on my response at the time, which was outrage. I was incensed. I was so upset that somebody was in an educational role was essentially telling me that changing the world was impossible and that I should just try and be happy. I just couldn't process it. And so I recorded that memory with this just sort of seething contempt at the time. And over time, every time I would revisit that memory, I was able to start to understand that maybe his advice and guidance and counsel was delivered from a different worldview, or maybe my emotional content at a time, because I was so full of that vim and vigor you have as a youth, was just misplaced. And what I've been able to do by looking back on those interactions on a regular basis and peeling off the emotional content, the emotional layers of that interaction, is understand that, hey, he may not have been giving me lifelong valuable counsel. He may have been describing something completely different in terms of his response. He might have been, that might have been him, what he was currently wrestling with. That might have been his present appetite in the moment that he told me those things. It doesn't really matter what kind of all of the emotional content was. There was some wisdom in what he said. And that is, it doesn't matter if you change the world if you're not happy. So there's some truth there. And there's other truths involved as well that came along by being able to look back on this memory and remove that emotional content that came with it, by trying to find the layers and layers of insight and wisdom that may have been there. And so this little grain of sand that has now become a pearl in my consciousness is something that I hold on to and at the same time cherish for both how I felt at the time and how I was able to remove the feelings from it over time to understand it from different perspectives. When we take this secretary kind of mind and start working through our own stuff and taking the emotional layers and removing them, or adding modern perspectives to old memories, or taking what you know now and applying it to who you were then to find ways to give yourself that grace and forgiveness. Those bits of work are all enabled by that data recording function. And as you get better at this, better at understanding how to do the work in the past and work with your own past and eventually get rid of it, you also understand what's worth recording in the present and what makes it to the future. This temporal understanding of the role of secretary is something that you're going to organically develop as you work with your past and your present and your future. What's worth committing to memory now, what's worth keeping, what's worth letting go of, what's relevant and irrelevant, really starts to shape the ground for the person tomorrow that gets to make a better decision because of the records kept today. That is that is such a powerful thing to start to get your head around that we'll probably end up having to talk about it again on multiple episodes of the show. But for now, understand you get to make those choices. You get to determine what's in your history book. Use it well.
The views represented in this podcast are those of the speaker alone and are not representative of any grand or subordinate lodge.
Hi, Brian here. I wanted to thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you have any suggestions or guidance for further episodes you'd like to see or hear, whatever the case may be, please don't hesitate to reach out to me at amasonswork.com, and we will try and incorporate your suggestions into a future recording. Thanks.
Freemasonry teaches us that the true work is within, a lifelong journey of reflection, discipline, and discovery. At A Mason's Work, we help Masons bring out their best selves through meaningful self-inquiry and symbolic practice. From personal reflection to lodge engagement, we offer tools that turn symbols into action. Visit us at amasonswork.com. The work is within. The time is now.